Hey everybody, Oliver here from Blue Liquid Labs. You might know me as the bushing burnishing guy. That is this tool right here. And certainly burnishing is one of the major aspects or major ingredients in getting a fork to feel really good and have really good sliding action, right? That is to say, that's the tool that increases the clearance of the bushings to make things more free, right? Very important. What I want to show you today is another tool that's going to be dealing with something that is related, and it's also going to make a big difference in terms of getting free sliding action. So I'm going to show you what's going on right here. I'm going to do a few demos for you. I'll start with this Fox 34. All right. This is an older fork. It has 100 millimeter dropout spacing. I'm going to show you this tool that I've developed. This tool is basically an adjustable tool. It is like a measuring and testing. It's a measuring and testing in one kind of a tool. You can screw this guy together in order to get 100 millimeter dropout width. The tool, by the way, works with any 15 millimeter axle fork, or you can unscrew it to get 110. And you can do in both modes, 100 and 110, you can do undersize and oversize. So the entire point of the tool is to insert the tool into a fork dropout, and you're gonna play with it, and you're gonna see if the ideal friction situation happens to be at 100, maybe it happens to be at 100.2, maybe it happens to be at 99.5. You're gonna use the tool to figure out where the dropouts are spaced ideally, and then we're gonna be able to do something about this. All right, so first off, we are going to use my, I guess this is like a dummy hub. It is a tool that's been made to nominally 100 millimeters or so. And we're gonna check out the friction situation in this Fox 34 at its normal position. So this replicates what you would find in this fork if you were to just put a hub in there, 100 millimeter hub. So what we see is something not bad, pretty good. Just gonna do this way for you guys to make it more obvious. So not bad. You can see there's some delay with the dropping, but pretty good. By the way, this test you really should be doing with the seals out of here. If you didn't do it with the seals out of here, it's really hard to tell and to test. So we're going for the lowest possible friction, right? Now, to get better than this friction, normally, and this is a fork that has not been used very much, if I burnished to 0.07, I'd probably get a better result. But forks that are really stiff, a lot of the time you have to burnish to larger than 0.07 if the fork is very misaligned and very stiff, right? So I'm just gonna show you that with this tool, you can find a position of the lowers where you're gonna get better sliding action. Now, this might not be applicable to every fork. I have seen this be, I would say, more applicable to forks in recent years. It seems that forks from a long time ago, to me, it felt like it was more common for them to be pretty friction free. The bushings used to be blown open bigger. I think forks used to be straighter. That's my interpretation of the entire thing. But not every fork. Some forks you might find that the ideal friction is at a perfect, whatever the nominal hub is. I mean, you might adjust the tool and find, it's perfect at 110, or it's perfect at 100. But there are a lot of forks where you're gonna find that the friction situation is ideal at something that's not the nominal. And that's what I'm gonna show you right now. So here we go. And you can play with it. You can open it, you can close it, and you can see what kind of friction you get. So first of all, I should measure that. So we're going to open it up to 100 nominally. Try to replicate. So there we go. We're going to start at 100. So at 100, we're going to get the same result, which was pretty decent. But we're going to see if we can get something better. So I'm going to close up the tool a little bit. So I can already feel it's getting a little bit better as I close the tool. Yeah, that's really good now, really good. Check that out. So you can see it's just falling. It was falling under gravity. It was falling under gravity before, but this is falling even more readily under gravity. And so I'm gonna see if maybe I can, is it gonna get any better if I go? Okay, that's pretty good. So we're gonna investigate and we're gonna measure and find out, what measurement this actually is. It might be, so I screwed it in, so it's not gonna be at 100, it's gonna be something smaller. The question is, how small? Okay, so the ideal, 99.7. All right, so what this would mean is that in order to get this same sliding action with a regular nominally 100 millimeter hub, we would have to shave down one of these dropouts by 0.3 millimeters, right? Now, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make an entirely separate video for that because that is its own procedure and it requires its own tool, but I'm gonna show you what that looks like. This is an MRP fork, and you can actually see from the factory, I don't know if you can see on that side, they actually did both from the factory on this one. You can see that there's an inset circle, and so they've actually shaved, there we go, you can see that circle inset. They shaved some small fraction of a millimeter off of each dropout. And so there are some situations with some forks where that is absolutely the best thing to do in order to get good sliding action. And so you can imagine that the thing to do, if the measurement of the tool revealed that the ideal sliding action happened at a width that was slightly larger than nominal, let's say, 100, in this case 100.3 or 100.5 or something like that, at that point you wouldn't be cutting, you would have to shim your hub. The easiest hubs to shim are usually higher end hubs. Higher end hubs tend to have these types of end caps where you can just easily pull them off and reveal like an intermediary axle, I guess you would want to call it, tubular axle, something like that. And so what you would be able to do then is to put the shim, you'd be able to take your shim and put it right in there, right up against the bearing, basically between the bearing and the end cap, right inside of there. Put the end cap back on, and that way your hub is, the shim is never going to fall out that way. When you take your front wheel out, you're never going to lose the shim. That's the best way to do it. Okay, so moving right along, I'm going to show you a special case of a good application of this tool. That's this guy. It's a modern Fox 36. It has a different dropout style than older 36s. It has a thread on one side, and it has a pinch bolt situation only on one side, and it has a large step on the axle, okay? So the cool thing about this fork, if you use the tool on this fork, you have to use the tool in a little bit of a different way. But with this fork, because it has this larger hole on this side, you actually do not need to do any cutting, and you do not need to do any shimming of your hub. So this is actually, in a way, it's an easier fork to deal with if you have some parallelism issues. So just gonna clamp that in there. And so the tool has an add-on that is meant for forks with, you know, like a pinch bolt type, singular pinch bolt dropout with a larger stepped, like a larger hole for a stepped axle. It's got a little funky cutout because the cutout matches the cutout that's on here. And what you do with the tool, you use the tool a bit differently. You adjust the tool. This is 110 millimeter dropout spacing. So you adjust the tool to 110. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that right now. So there we go, 110. And then what we do is we're gonna screw this part. So at that point, we are not going to, you know, adjust this part of the tool anymore. We're gonna adjust the entire tool, and we're gonna thread that guy on. We're gonna turn the entire tool relative to this part right here. And what this is gonna do, so like I said, this is a unique case. We are gonna change the axle out from this stepped style to a more conventional style axle. And a lot of companies make this type of axle. Fox makes it, Bergtech makes it. There's other companies that make it. And we are gonna convert this into an axle and spacer type of a system. And you'll see in a minute why that is. You'll see that the spacer is there to kind of mimic that bulged axle. Okay, so let's run a test here. And at the end of this test, what you'll see, and I'm gonna bring this a little bit closer so you can see this. So what this tool is set to do, once you find the perfect position to get the best sliding action, this tool serves as a stopper that's gonna tell you exactly how far in that spacer needs to stop against. Once you're done that, then you can put the axle in there, right? And you don't have to get the axle from me. You don't have to get the spacer from me even. Fox actually makes a black spacer, and some of these forks actually already came with that spacer. Okay, so let's see what we get here. So we're already getting, oh, first of all, I should do a baseline for you guys. I don't think I've done the baseline for this fork. So let's see what the friction situation is on this fork to start with. For that, we have a 110 millimeter dummy hub. Okay, we're going to put the regular axle in. We're getting a baseline, and we're going to see what the friction looks like on this fork. All right, so this is a 160 mil travel fork. So that's the starting point. I can already feel a ton of resistance. So this fork is quite a bit worse than the Fox 34 I had a minute ago. Okay, so we get some free sliding in this region. A little bit after the first third of travel, I would say some free, not free, but some free sliding. Ton of resistance at the end of travel. Last 2/3 of travel, ton of resistance. And I'm gonna stick that in the vise. I got a tool for that. Stick that in the vise in the upward orientation. That way it's more obvious for you guys to see on camera. Okay. Let's check it out. So, let's see here. Okay, so we get, so it doesn't go down on its own at the start of travel, you can see. If I tap it, it'll go down. There's that area of more free action. Not super free, but more free. Just past that first third of travel. And then at the end, the remaining region after that point of travel, super stiff, right? So let's use the tool and let's see if we can get a better result. So we're gonna take that axle out. We're gonna put in the new setup. because eventually the tool is going to tell us, the tool will tell us exactly where that little spacer should stop. And let's see if we can get some better, results with this tool. All right. So, still got that friction. Now let's unscrew the tool a little bit and so we're already getting somewhere. As soon as I unscrewed that tool a little bit, so we're getting somewhere. It's getting a little better. A little better still. All right. That's pretty good. So we're still getting some, much less, but still getting some resistance just at the end of travel. But overall we're getting a lot better of a result. So what we do is we're gonna tighten that guy down. That'll push the spacer right up against the tool. That's where we want that spacer. We're gonna lock that spacer down. That is gonna, and we're not gonna move that. You don't wanna lose your perfect position. Then at that point, we take the axle out, take the tool out, and at that point you're ready to put your stock hub in. Now, I'm guessing with 36s and 38s, you may get some different results depending on which particular fork you're working on, which batch it came from the factory. In this particular case, the ideal friction position, you can see that the spacer happened to be inset downward, inset from where the dropout normally would be planar, right? And one detail to note about these Fox 36s and Fox 38s, whatever axle you happen to get, you have to make sure that the head of the axle is bottoming out on the spacer, not on the casting, okay? Because if it bottoms out on the casting, it's gonna wanna, once everything is tightened, it's gonna wanna pull the spacer up and you're gonna lose your perfect position, right? So the whole thing is we wanna keep that perfect position because we get the best friction there, right? So in the past, before this tool, we would have no choice but to burnish these bushings and basically blow them out to a bigger size to account for whatever lack of parallelism we have in this system. But with this tool, at the very least, we were able to get some smoother results by, in this particular fork, this is a very well-used fork. Doesn't require any burnishing. The bushings are already pretty big already as they are. But as you saw, you get a pretty decent result using this tool, right? So I think that about covers it for this tool and this setup. Like I said earlier, I'm going to make a separate video for the procedure and the tool for cutting dropouts.